Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, to my broadcast. Today's broadcast is about a white man who gave birth to a baby and he loses his legal fight to be recognized as the father. Well, the reason why, it's because it's a transgender man who does not want to be described as the mother of his baby on a birth certificate. He's lost the legal fight to be recognized as a father in a high-profile case. Listen to his story, and I'll come back with my comments.
Thing on a screen that you didn't know existed, you didn't know was possible, it's life-changing. It's a cliche, but you cannot be what you cannot see. I 100% believe in that. I didn't know that I could become a dad the way that I did. I've always wanted to have kids one day. I'm going to have my own baby and I will be dead. I wanted this film to feel like you'd spent an hour and a half with me and perhaps you'd never had a chance to meet a trans person, so maybe that would help you feel a connection to me just as a human being, and that would generate some empathy, because I think empathy is key to unlocking understanding in these kinds of situations and shifting the focus away from the sensational, scary, inaccurate sort of news reporting and media conversation that's going on. I'm a journalist, I work for Guardian, and I love video and film, and so I understand the power of telling a story that way, and I thought, hey, why don't I try and do that? I think I could do a good job of it, and if I'm going to do that, I'd like to do it on a big scale, help it reach as big an audience as possible.
When I met Freddy, I just had so many questions, and really small questions about what it means to be a parent. It's such a period of change. What would that feel like for Freddy, someone who's already, gone through a lot of change in his life already? For a lot of people, transgender people are someone that they read about on social media. What would it be like if we could just show a life?
I think that's the key thing. I wanted to be able to tell my story, share my story on my own terms. I was really keen to make sure that other people who like me, in my community all around the world, knew that they had this option as well for starting a family if they wanted to pursue it and look into it. Because I think a lot of people in my situation aren't told that. In fact, they're probably told the opposite. In the UK, we're lucky that we have a system of midwives that sort of are with you through your whole pregnancy, so you get to know people, you can build up relationships and trust. Although I wasn't constantly encountering new people who I had to explain everything to, that made a huge difference. I mean, I've just been so lucky my entire life, really, but certainly since I came out as trans and then began transitioning and everything else that's happened since then. My mum's been an absolute, rock by my side. I have great family and friends as well in general. I don't know where I'd be without them.
What I want from this is for people to take a moment to embrace a different kind of family story that they may not have encountered before, but also just to take a minute and think about their own family and how they become parents, if they are parents. Maybe just to engage with the film with love and empathy, because that's how the film was made.
The idea that I could help anyone by telling my story, just one person, that would kind of make it worth it.
Okay, so family, you just heard it. It's Freddy McConnell, a multimedia journalist who works for a British newspaper, The Guardian. He wanted to be registered as the father or parent of his child. McConnell gave birth to the baby after becoming pregnant with donor sperm. A judge on Wednesday, however, ruled against him after analyzing arguments at a high court trial in London. Quote, there is a material difference between a person's gender and their status as a parent, said Sir Andrew McFarlane, president of the Family Division of the High Court, in a ruling. Being a mother, whilst hitherto always associated with being female, is the status afforded to a person who undergoes the physical and biological process of carrying a pregnancy and giving birth. It is now medically and legally possible for an individual whose gender is recognized in law as male to become pregnant and give birth to their child. Whilst that person's gender is male, their parental status, which derives from their biological role in giving birth, is that of mother. A lawyer who represented McConnell said an appeal was being considered. Quote, as a firm that champions equality, we are of course disappointed at the judgment, and it highlights how the law is slow to keep up to modern society, said Karen Holden, founder of a city law firm. Well, before I continue, let me just state for the record that that's not how you change people's morality. You don't change morality. You don't change what's written by law and what's been mandated by God, whether you believe in a higher power or not. That's why we have a positive and a negative. We always have the law of opposites. But nonetheless, I digress. Freddy is legally a man, and his legal papers display the same. In the UK, he has the right to change his gender on his own birth certificate, so why not his child's? Surely, if you are going to move with modern times, the law has to finish the journey it has started. See where the agenda is going, people? Quote, equality shouldn't have to come at a price, but this case has taken 3 years, hours of work and manpower, public attention, and yet the court still failed to help this family set out its actual family structure correctly in terms of its legal status. Well, the courts ruled, and they ruled that this is right. And when other people are going through court cases, you always tell other people that you should respect the law. And in this case, I think these people should respect the law. But I digress. It says, quote, a birth certificate will stay with a child for life, and it will be factually and legally inaccurate under current rules. Well, see, that's because man has changed the right thing and made it wrong, and that's why things are so complicated. Anyways, McConnell, 32, claims in the documentary Seahorse, the dad who gave birth, that pregnancy would be taken more seriously if more men gave birth. Now, before I continue, I want this to be known that this is the ordeal of a white man who is proposing that other white men give birth to. In the black culture in Africa, there are no people who set out to do this type of thing. They don't get out there and assert and want to influence other people to do this type of behavior. But this is what's going on in white culture. This is just a comparison. It's not a racist point I'm trying to make. It's just a comparison. But I digress. In the film, which portrays his fatherhood journey over 3 years, he says, quote, if all men got pregnant, then pregnancy would be taken so much more seriously and talked about. Oh God. Quote, if men had to go through this all the time, you would never hear the end of it, he adds. Well, lawyers said the child would be the first person born in England and Wales not to legally have a mother if McConnell won his case. Well, that didn't happen. They say other transgender men have given birth but have been registered on birth certificates as mothers, as they appropriately are. McFarland heard how McConnell is a single parent who was born a woman but now lives as a man after surgery. McConnell was biologically able to get pregnant and give birth, but had legally become a man when the child was born. A registrar told him that the law required people who give birth to be registered as mothers. McConnell took legal action against the current register office, which administers the registration of births and deaths in England and Wales after complaining of discrimination. He said forcing him to register as the child's mother breached his human right to respect for privacy and family life. McFarland heard arguments from lawyers representing McConnell, the child, the head of the General Register Office, Department of Health and Social Care ministers, and Home Office ministers. Barrister Hannah Markham, QC, who led McConnell's legal team, told the judge that it was in the child's interest for him to be registered as father or parent. She said many children were growing up in rainbow families and said a child had a right to have a parent's gender appropriately identified on their birth certificate. Well, that's the extent of this broadcast, but I just wanted to be known that, do you hear what happened? How this transgender took this action all the way to the highest courts to get what's always been the law of the land changed for transgender people. And this sets a precedent for people who are polygamists, people who are pedophiles, and so many other ideologies that they might feel is right and correct. It sets a precedent, and it's going in the wrong direction. It's not what God mandated. This is why God created man and woman. It's as simple as that. This is the New Black Media. Thank you for listening to my broadcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out. You're welcome to disagree. There is a comment section. Just keep it respectful. Peace out.